Greetings, brothers. It's been about 8 months since we talked about the Gladiator Reaper. I did it in another video where I focused on the Battle Predator, and the Reaper's got another points drop in the battle slate. Armour of Contempt obviously made them more survivable. I thought we'd revisit the Reaper, find out if they're actually a good heavy support choice, and if it's worth picking them up for our Blood Angels list. So let's talk about the Gladiator Reaper, and let's just start by reminding us what's changed since last time. So it is now 180 points, and realistically you're probably going to put that heavy stubber on it for 5 points. I think you can probably live without the auto launchers and the Icarus rocket pods. When I looked at this 8 months ago, I said the auto launcher should probably be free. I don't think that you should have to pay the 5 points for it. But anyway, the Gladiator Reaper we're going to look at today is Iron Hail Heavy Stubber. We've got 2 Tempest Bolters, and then we've got the twin Onslaught Cannons. So really, at 30 inches, we have like 8 shots from 4-1-1, another 4 shots from 4-1-1, and then 24 shots. And that sounds good on paper. 24 shots of 6-1-1. Essentially, that's 2 twin assault cannons, sorry, like you would have on top of the Battle Predator. So essentially, that's like the double assault cannon you would have on the Battle Predator times 2. So, like I said, in never-ending debate on what is good fires for Blood Angels, people have started to say, like, hey, have you considered the Gladiator Reaper? Now, this thing has had like 3 points drops. And if it continues at some point, it will be competitive. Is it competitive right now at essentially like 185? That's really why I want to jump into this today again. So it is toughness 8 and it does have 12 wounds. So let's look at first how it survives against other things that were hopefully similar. So a Battle Predator, it got a points drop ever so slightly. This update went down 10 points if you're going to run it with the heavy bolters and the twin assault cannon. Relic Contemptors with those double Volcons went up 20 points. So if we compare it against, you know, a Battle Predator, a Relic Contemptor that are both slightly cheaper, how does it do? Well, I mean, the toughness 8 is good. If you're ever going to hit it with like strength 4 weaponry, it's going to be the most survivable. It kind of keeps up on everything else against strength 5. Low AP shots here from like Plague Burst Mortars or Gauze Reapers. It's kind of, you know, it's ahead. Against my -3, it's not quite up there with the Relic Contemptor having no invulnerable and no -1 damage, but it's not bad at all. The toughness 8 keeps it reasonably competitive. And then I'd say against other weapons here, we've got like auto cannons, onslaught cannons, eviscerators from Repentia, and then the Tau Plasmas. Again, it's doing pretty decent until, you know, some of these higher AP stuff with multiple damage. That's when it's going to kind of fall away a little bit. But overall, I'd say like its survivability for its points cost is not bad. Paying 5 points for Smokescreen is probably feels bad because it's only against ranged weaponry and you don't want to spend the CP on it every turn. I think the auto launcher should be free. I said that before. So against something like Tau Plasma, it's going to take 9.6 successful hits to kill a Reaper. Like, it's a very decent amount. You know, the Relic Contemptor with its -1 damage is only going to take like 1.5 more hits. There's nothing on paper that says the Reaper is bad for its points cost. Its points cost is still pretty high compared to the other two, but it's not bad. The Reaper has obviously the ability to use Smokescreen, as I said, and it has the interesting Grav Flux, which potentially makes it very difficult for enemies to charge it. If the enemy decides to charge it, you can use your Grav Plus 2 more inches more difficult, and you can also fall back and shoot with the same Grav Pulse strat. So it has a bit more flexibility than maybe like the other Dreadnought or the Battle Predator, as we said. So is the damage there now at 185 points? Bearing in mind Armour of Contempt has changed the whole battlefield. So while it's benefited Marines in terms of survivabilities, it has also benefited some of our biggest rivals like Death Guard and Sisters of Battle. So what I've been hearing is like, what if we had a couple of Gladiator Reapers to clear screens, Dr. Evil quotes here, clear screens, to deal with enemy units that like we don't want to be killing with our jump units. Typically with our jump units like Death Company, Sanguinary Guard, we want to be going after tough targets. We don't want to have to clear units, but sometimes enemies can put units in the way, preventing charges. So if we had like 2 Gladiator Reapers, could we kill a bunch of units? And the units that I wanted to check were like Battle Sisters, Tactical Marines, Plague Marines. These all things have Armour of Contempt, and then a couple without Armour of Contempt. Let's say Custodian Guards, and what about Orc Boys? And this is their saves. And we're going to do some maths for 2 Gladiator Reapers, 2 Ball Predators, and 2 Contemptors with Volkites. We're going to shoot them at each of the squad. We're going to work out how much damage we do. So that's what I did next. So looking at the numbers when we use 2 Reapers, 2 Ball Predators, and 2 Contemptors into squads of Battle Sisters, Tactical Marines, Plague Marines, Custodian Guards, and Orc Boys. What's probably very obvious straight away is like, against these things with reasonably decent saves, like Armour of Contempt or Custodes, the damage for the number of shots is pretty weak. And it's hard to quite justify exactly, like, looking at this, you know, if I say to you 2 Gladiator Reapers will shoot a squad of Tactical Marines and do 9.78 damage, that might be quite hard to understand. So you can pause it on this slide if you want. Maybe it's not hard to understand, but it's hard to instantly realize what that means in game terms. So the second slide I've done is talking about if we were shooting into a 10-man squad. Now I know 10-man squad of Battle Sisters is a lot cheaper than a 10-man squad of Custodian Guard, but I put the points cost here as well, so you can just have a think about that. So if I shoot 2 Ball Predators into a squad of Battle Sisters, 2 of them are alive. If I shoot the Reapers or the Contemptors with the Volcons, the squad's wiped. Let's talk about Tactical Marines, and this is the one that kind of surprised me, and is if I shoot 2 Gladiator Reapers, that's 370 points, into a squad of Tactical Marines. If this was a 10-man squad, there's 5 left. It only kills 5 models. So the Gladiators are kind of deceiving, and you do have 24 shots. You're hitting on 3s, you're wounding on 3s, it sounds really good, but then they're saving on 3s, so your 24 shots only ends up doing like 3.5 wounds. The 12 other shots you're getting from the Tempest Bolters and Iron Hail Stubber at like 30 inches or max range, they barely dish out another single point of damage because you're only wounding on worse. You're wounding on 4s as opposed to wounding on 3s. So 2 Reapers only dealing 5 casualties into a squad of Tactical Marines. It feels terrible. I mean, the Relic Contemptors are doing better, right? Because they obviously spit out some mortal wounds, and each failed save is 2 damage from the Volcons. If we look at Plague Marines or Custodian Guards, Reapers are just bouncing off. Relic Contemptors are doing even worse. Battle Predators are doing even worse. So, like, in this case, the best option into Plague Marines is indeed Gladiator Reapers, but 370 points of them are going to kill like 4.5 models. So you're barely going to kill 80 points of models. And I guess if they were going to shoot into Custodian Guard, you're maybe going to do a little better because you're killing 45-point models, but they do have 3 wounds. So you're talking like 370 points to kill 100 points of models. That's a really poor exchange. Like, it's just poor. Obviously all these Space Marine tanks were designed before Armour of Contempt, so like, is it just a case of like these things essentially have 1 less armor point of AP kind of across the board? Like, even looking at this now, like, I know I want some fire support on my Blood Angels list. I thought it was maybe Gladiator Reapers, but like, even if the Reaper comes down, let's say 20 more points, so rather than like 370, let's say they're 330. Would 330 points to kill 5 Tactical Marines a turn feel valuable? My thought is it wouldn't. I think the problem here is not necessarily points cost with this model. I think it's the AP on the guns or the weapon profiles. Like, I think they need a rejig to make these valuable. And the Ball Predator 150 points, it's not, you know, it's not actually a million miles behind the Reaper in terms of where we are. And no one's fielding Ball Predators. Even with the points drop, they weren't even on anyone's radar. So I've been saying for a little while, it's difficult for Space Marine players or Blood Angels players in particular, because we don't have that much synergy with shooting, to include shooting stuff that is efficient I think that's definitely going to be a problem for a little while longer. So 8 months ago, I made a video on the Ball Predator, trying to work out like what it would take to get it competitive. And obviously, I still don't think it's competitive. And I touched on the Gladiator Reaper in that video, and I'll put a link up above if you want to check that video out. But 370 points of firing to kill 5 Marines or 4.5 Plague Marines, so barely 100 points. I think the problem here is Armour of Contempt. While it has given those units like the Reaper a bit of survivability and potentially a bit of play, because before they had no play, it's really, really hurt their weaponry. So where I stand right now is like, we could fall back on Redemptor Dreadnoughts with the heavy plasmas, but in tournament play, when you need number of shots from those heavy plasmas, they always seem to roll bloody ones for me, and CPing rerolls in the number of shots on weapons in tournament play is not a good way to use your rerolls. So Redemptor Dreadnoughts do synergize a bit with us because they have that really nice fist, but their shooting is not reliable. Can we afford to spend CP on Volkite Contemptors? I mean, the points went down on Sanguinary Guard and Death Company, so arguably you could run something similar to before, and Volkite Contemptors haven't suffered from Armour of Contempt because essentially their guns have no AP anyway. So Volkite Contemptors are okay, I would say. They do have nice range. They can be left, and you know, if you include one of them, they can do a decent amount of chip damage throughout a game. They can also spit out some mortals. I don't hate Volkite Contemptors. I think at least in tournament play, they're more reliable than Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I think in the near future, I'm going to be trying attack bikes, probably in 3-man squads. Some people have been saying, have you considered ATVs? I haven't considered ATVs, but we could include them in a future test. I guess what we're trying to do here as a Blood Angels player at the moment is not have our heavy support, or our fire support units rather, take up elite slots. Because Sanguinary Guard Death Company points drops mean that they're totally viable. You almost want to be filling every elite slot, or a lot of them, with those units. So how can we complement our Blood Angels army? And obviously some people have done that with Centurions, some people have done it with Eliminators. For me, it's an ongoing thing. I hope you enjoy this video. If there's something that you think I'm missing that you would like me to make a video about, you can leave a comment and I will do so in the next coming weeks. Or if there's other topics you would like to see, totally up for doing them as well. I just thought the Gladiator Reaper might have come back in. As I said, it's had like 3 points dropped since it's come out, but I think it probably needs one more, or, and this, I think this is the big or, Space Marine units are super difficult for them to balance right now because of all the different chapters affecting the AP potentially, or maybe we just need a bit more flexibility with our doctrines. I don't know how they fix this, but I definitely don't think a Gladiator Reaper is a good unit to add to Blood Angels right now. I'm sorry, Highland Phoenix. I know you were wanting me to say it is, and I did say that one of your lists recently that we looked at with a couple of Reapers might be viable. But on second thoughts, I don't think Reapers are viable in competitive play, and I'm at a loss for how they could be viable. So I'm going to an RTT tomorrow, and I'm going to be posting some updates on the Blood Angels Commander Facebook page. That's the page, not the group. Loads more people are signed up to the group than the page. So I'm going to link the page right at the top of this video description. I'd love it if you would click it and then like. It would mean so much to me. Thank you for that. If you enjoy this type of content, you can also like the video, or you can click subscribe for more weekly Blood Angels content. As always, brothers, thank you ever so much for watching. I appreciate all the support you guys give me. And if there was a video that you wanted me to do, leave it in the comments down below. I, of course, will catch you next week. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.